In this video, I'm going to show you how I actually find development deals. I've struck hundreds of millions of pounds worth of development deals over the years. Personally, I've gone to these owners, struck the deals, and been able to create a successful development business. A lot of the information out there is BS. People have different methods, whether it's online methods or offline methods or via third parties, online software, and it's nonsense. A lot of it is nonsense. So I'm going to give you the direct, real methods on how to find development sites. You're welcome in advance. Right, so I'm Anthony Laville. I'm a property developer based in the UK, and I've done hundreds of millions of pounds worth of deals, and I've delivered tens of millions of pounds worth of deals successfully, from finding the site, negotiating the deal with the seller, to then taking it through the design process, planning, the development process, construction, and exit, whether that's been a sale or a refinance. So I've done that multiple times now. So you've got a bit more of an idea of who you're speaking to and what you're going to get out of this video that I've done just for you. Right, so how do you find development deals? That is the question. This is why you're watching this video. We're going to get straight into it. I'm going to use my notes as we go through this. First of all is positioning. When you're positioning yourself to a seller, you need to make sure you have the confidence enough to speak to them. They don't want to hear about your life story. They don't want to hear about any doubts you have about funding the deal or your ability. You're going to call them up, very direct, and say, "Hi, I've seen your site on John Street and I'm interested in buying it. I'm a developer. Are you open to selling it?" And some will say, "Yes, I don't know. Yes, I'm thinking about it," or "Never thought about it." And then you're going to say, "Well, look, I'm keen to do a deal. It's a factory at the moment. I'm not really interested in owning the factory. I want to be able to build on it and do a development. So I need really your input on this. Is that something we can do?" And then the seller's either going to say yes or no, and then you're going to take it from there. You're going to say, "Look, I can go away, give you a concrete offer, but it's going to take me a lot of time and resources to spend analyzing this. Is that okay?" And then you're going to progress the deal to the next phase, right? Then you're going to get into the mode you're going to get into the site finding mode. So it's all in the mind. That's the number one. So once you've got over that mindset, you're going to get straight into some of the ways you can find deals. So one of the ways you can use, which is pretty obvious, are estate agents. Estate agents can be very good to find deals because they're connected to a lot of sellers in the market. Usually when a seller's thinking about selling, they're probably going to go to a third party, which is an agent. If you're new to development, you may find it's a challenge because that agent is going to ask for proof of funds. They're going to ask who you are, your track record, what deals you've delivered previously. Basically, it's an application. It's going to be an application before you even view the site or you're able to speak to the seller and negotiate a deal. There's going to be effectively an application judging you on why you should be able to do the deal. So whilst estate agents are good and they can be very handy because they're connected to a lot of deals, if you've got no experience or you're new in the market or you don't like a lot of competition, even if you're experienced, you may not enjoy that process. I've done deals with estate agents before. I try not to use estate agents where I can, but they've been very handy. Only reason why I don't like using estate agents is, one, because I don't like competition. And usually most agents aren't very good at getting deals done. They actually block deals, especially if deals where you need to be a bit more creative. When, for instance, let's say it's a deal where you need to get planning permission and you're not really comfortable with buying the site without having planning permission first. If you need to create a deal where you need to have something in place like an option agreement, where that gives you an exclusive right to buy a deal and therefore allows you an opportunity to get planning first and then buy the deal without actually committing to buying a deal, that can be quite difficult sometimes with some agents. And so I don't really recommend that route if you're new. But again, I've done deals. It's a fantastic way to get deals done by third parties if it's a really good agent. Look, by the way, of agents, I've had mixed experiences. I've had experiences with agents that are very good and others that are terrible. Do you know, when I first started out, back in the day, in my early days in 2017, when I first started grinding, I was in my mid-20s. I was really out there working hard to find development deals. So I was going out, finding potential plots, whether it was a car park, factory, old office building, an existing residential building, whatever it is. It's pretty obvious what a development site is. When you're looking for sites, right? You know, you see something there and you go, that probably should be a different kind of development or building. So when I started to do that, I started finding owners or finding sites. And when I found these owners or their details, I'd look on Companies House, I'd look for land registry and then see who owned it. If it was owned by a company, I'd go to Companies House, which is an online register of all the companies in the UK. So you'd go to Companies House, type that name in, and then you'll see who the directors are. You can then see what website, if there's any connected to that company. And then you can find the directors and try and find the details that way, as well as a bunch of other methods. So when I was out there, young gun, looking for these deals directly with sellers, some of these sellers would be getting letters from me. So they'd see this letter and I'd say, you know, it'd be from me basically, or my assistant. It was my assistant actually. My assistant would send it and it would say, "Dear Mr. Seller, seen your site at this location, blah, blah, blah. I'm interested in buying it. Contact me." And I used to work patches. So I'd find an area that I thought was really good for development. And I would send a bunch of letters to the owners in that area and then I'd find another one. What tends to happen is a lot of the landowners in those patches will have their go-to agent. So that agent, that broker or that real estate agent would have done potentially sales or lettings for them before. So they generally have someone to go to. So some of these sellers were basically contacting a couple of local agents and then asking them, who the hell is this Anthony LaVille guy sending me letters? I knew these agents from over the years. I was a letting agent originally. I'd set up my own lettings business, but I wasn't a developer. So these agents, I was going to swear them, I'm not going to swear, I'm going to keep it PG, would basically tell these sellers, I can't do the deal. And in fairness to them, I had no track record in doing deals. I didn't have any real funds to be able to do deals. And they were quite right, I'm not a developer. But instead of contacting me and saying, Anthony, this seller's got in touch and blah, 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 they would basically say to the seller, don't deal with him. He can't deliver the deal. He's no good. So they'd basically be trying to get a deal themselves. So they'd then say to the seller, look, obviously, let me see what buyers I can get. And I'd basically get muscled out of deals that way. And when I found out, I could not believe it. I was at a meeting once with one of these agents I knew. And he actually kind of gave me a bit of an insight to letters that he was getting from sellers. And I thought, fine. Then I attended another meeting with a developer that I knew, who now I'm bigger than. But he had a track record, he'd done developments himself. I told him what was going on. I said, look, these agents are kind of screwing me. They're getting contact from sellers that I've been in touch with who are trying to verify who I am, and then I'm not getting a deal done. So he in front of me, he's a friend, developer, called one of these agents in front of me on loudspeaker and said, look, I've got my guy here, Anthony. He's telling me that you're basically blocking his deals. And then the agent said to him on the phone whilst I was listening on speaker, he hasn't got money to do the deal. I'm not sure what he's doing. And I kind of kept quiet and I thought, do you know what? The positioning isn't right. And I can see why they'd be doubting me. They know me as an agent. Anyway, that same night, I thought, screw this. I set up a website same night, I used Squarespace or whatever it was at the time, and set up a basic website myself. And it was live that evening. So then my next letters had a little volume property on it. And then from there, things got a lot easier. It was a basic website. This is what we're doing. We're looking for deals. It was a one-pager. And that seemed to work. Whilst I still don't recommend that, you can still send letters that are plain with just your name on. That was a blocker that I found. So be careful. These agents out there trying to screw you. And then beyond that, I'd have deals progress. You got to watch some of these agents. Some of them are quite dodgy. Some of them are good to deal with. A lot of them are dodgy. They take backhanders. Let's just be real. And they're not the most savory characters. They do a lot of backhanded deals, and they lie against their client's interest and your interest. They will lie to get a deal done. So that's my experience with agents. Pretty greedy. I've had some good experiences, so don't get me wrong. And I still work with agents. It's not all agents. But it's a dog-eat-dog world, this real estate game. So I would caution you if you're working with agents, some developers, if you're smart, you can build up a very good relationship with agents. Let me make that clear. You can have agents finding you deals. They then sell you the deal, right? You want to be the go-to for the agent. They make a fee from the seller and finding you the deal. Then, once you've built the property or you've refurbished it and you need to rent it out or sell it, you go back to the same agent and they make fees from you again. And then you've built that relationship, right? They find you deals, you build it, they rent it or sell it for you. They're happy if they sell it. They may even get the management as well. So they may have found the deal, get a fee, find you a seller, sell it, make a fee, and then they manage it and make a fee from management. That is a estate agent and letting agent's dream to do all three. That's where you come in as a developer and try and build that gap and build that relationship for being all three. But again, caution, some will have the people that are go-to, and then you have an opportunity to come in and build a brand new relationship from scratch. So that's what I would say. Right, so that's estate agents. That's one route. Next route is off-market. This is my favorite way to do deals. And when I say off-market, I mean similar to what I was talking about there, but I'm going direct. I'm going direct to these sellers. I'm walking down the street. I find a factory. So if we take, for instance, Volume Works Phase 1, which is my 48 studio development, it's worth about £8.5 million now. Cost about I think the contract was like 3.2 million pounds to build at the time. And it was 300 grand to buy the land. So I got a pretty good deal at the time, but I had to take the risk of getting planning permission. There wasn't as much development in the area and so forth. But that was a good deal. That site, I intentionally parked up 2 roads away in my patch in this area that I thought was good for development. And I started walking around looking for development sites specifically and intentionally. So I went around looking for sites. I found this factory as well as others. It was a single story factory, and I thought to myself, damn, this looks like an opportunity. I think I can do a deal here. So the same night, same day, I found the address. I used property software. There's loads of them out there. I'm not going to mention any names because I'm not endorsing this video. In fact, no, I will mention it. I'm going to give. But so you've got everyone from Landtech, Land Insight, Searchland, Nimbus Maps. They're all similar. And they all have their benefits and drawbacks. They are good because you can put the address in of the property and it will find the address, and then on the mapping software it will show you how big the plot is and owner's details and the planning history. Quite good software. I went on that and that clicked on it and that showed me who the ownership was, and the ownership was a company. I went to the company, saw what the ownership was, and I looked at the directors, clicked on one of the directors, and I see that the director was a director of an accounting firm. I then went to that firm on Companies House, saw the name of the firm, put that into Google, searched it in Google, and then Google gave me the name of the firm. I went to the company website, and that gave me the names of all the directors in that company who were running the accounting firm. One of them was the directors on the original property that I'd found online. I contacted that guy. I tried to call the office. He wasn't available. I sent him an email. He emailed me back and said, yes, I'm interested in selling it. My email to him was very basic. I said, great, let me do some feasibility work and I'll come back to you. I offered him 150 grand if I could buy it right away, or £290,000 if I could be allowed an opportunity to get planning first in time. He chose the latter. We had a lot of back and forth over the course of sort of 18 months where it took to get planning permission. I needed an extension, I had issues with planning. Eventually got a deal done and we acquired the site once we got planning permission. Do you know how many times I spoke to that guy on the phone? Zero. To this day, I've never done a deal like that. And I've never met the guy, I've never seen him. He knew very little about me. He never had a lettings company. I didn't prove myself as a developer. I didn't have any track record. We did that whole exchange by email. The option agreement that I sent him to sign, I sent in post. In fact, I sent it to him and said, you sign and send 2 copies to me in the post. He did. I signed 2, sent him one back, option agreement done. All by email and post. I've never spoken to that guy to this day. I bought that property eventually in 2019 from memory. I think I struck the deal in 2017 and I bought it in 2019, 18 months later. Incredible. Off market is the way forward. 95% of the deals I've done are like that. I've found somewhere, I've been walking, I've been driving, found a site, then done some research into who the owner is, used some various methods that we use, contacted them and then agreed a deal and then followed up. Off market is the best by far. I had no agents to deal with, no disputes. They're not questioning my credibility or track record, quicker responses. You're not being sold lies by middlemen who have ulterior motives or maybe have someone else in the background that's giving them a backhander. You're not worrying about all of that. So off market's good, it's direct, it's quick. And do you know what? A lot of agents like to go direct as well because some of them are sick of agents. So that's one of the ways you can do it. And other times agents can be very helpful. They can help you do deals. But off market for me is the best. It's quick. There's less competition. There's no competition usually. Sometimes they go out and get third-party opinions. Off markets usually works for everyone. Three, another way, distressed deals. You can go via third-party administrators and you can look on the list and there's usually a website you can go to. I say usually, there's a website, Companies House, where you can go to and find all the companies that are insolvent. You just go to the filter, look for insolvent real estate companies. You can find all the companies that are going out of business. And then once you go to it, you can then click into the company and you can see who the administrator is and contact that company and see if they've got any real estate for sale. That's the way to do it. It's a bit predatory, but a deal's a deal. If they want to get the deal done and sold, they'll sell to you. They'll go out there looking for a few buyers. It's a good way to do it. Sometimes they'll take it to auction, but I've done a deal from an administrator before. There was a deal that was, I actually found a deal once that was up for sale at auction. And I went to Companies House. No, I'm lying. I went to Land Registry, found the guy's name. It was a very unique name. And I searched the guy's name into Google. It came up as a listing on LinkedIn. I clicked through LinkedIn. And LinkedIn took me to his profile. Only guy of that name. I messaged him on LinkedIn and said, I've seen your property in auction. I'd like to do a deal before you buy it. Can you let me know if this is possible? Turns out this guy was abroad and he didn't even know that the property had been repossessed. So the bank had repossessed the property because he'd missed payments. As soon as he found out, he made a payment to clear what the amount that was outstanding, which wasn't a lot, funnily enough. And then helped me buy the deal. Although it was too late, he got in touch with the administrator. It was already too late by that point. He'd already had the property repossessed, but he still had some sway and influence with the administrator. And so he said to the administrator, I've got a buyer. I then contacted the administrator myself directly, and then we agreed a deal. They pulled it from auction. I bought the deal for, from memory, £119,000 cash, and it was a great deal. Still own it to this day. It's a student property. So that can work. I've done it myself. I've bought from administrators, found it. That was great. So that's another way that works. So I definitely recommend that. So distressed deals are a good way to do it. You just need to make sure you've got funds and financing and an ability to be able to transact quickly. Administrators want certainty, and you got to make sure you give them that. And speed. Right, so that's that, distressed deals. Another way is the local authority buying from local councils. A lot of councils now are strapped for cash. They're looking for exits. Generally, when the council's selling sites, they have a duty to get what you call best value. So they need to go out to the open market and offer the property to everyone. So let's say it's an old community centre, again, which I bought. If you buy an old council-owned community centre, they have to offer it to the wider open market. So they usually do it by auction, or they just put it for sale with an agent, or it goes to tender, and you're bidding against everyone else. And that's the way you can do it. So you can go to the council list, the council website. Sometimes they have a property section of all the properties for sale. And they also list or give you notice of what properties are going to auction or to the open market. That's one way you can do it. There's another way where you can strike deals with the council where they don't have to go to the open market. And this is if you're an interested party. For example, let's say you owned a plot of land, and this plot of land was next to another plot of land owned by the council. You then do a feasibility study and you work out that if you add your land to the council land that's on next door, you could do a much bigger development and you could pay more for the council land, because joining the site up means that you can have a bigger development and therefore means you can make more money and obviously then pay the council more money. You're an interested party at that point. So if you do that, you can approach the council and say, seen your site next door, you own it, fine, I own the site next door, I've worked out I can pay you a lot more money than what it's worth, and here's how. That council will look at that deal and they do not have to go to everyone else in the market. If they can prove and justify correctly that you can pay more money than they can ordinarily get elsewhere by offering it to the market, they will deal with you directly. So that's how you can do a deal with the council direct. It's a very strong method. It could be an option agreement. It could be an agreement to buy exclusivity. Doesn't really matter. If you can demonstrate you can pay the council more, you can get a deal done direct. It won't be easy, it won't be quick, but again, you can do that. I've done that as well. I've done the same thing with councils. I've bought multiple deals and sites of councils, freeholds, buildings. It can be done. So I recommend that method. It's a very good method. Right, now another way. Banks and lenders. Now this is very interesting, especially deals that are in distress. If you're very friendly with a bank and they've repossessed the deal, they can direct you to the relevant administrator that's handling the transaction, and they can line you up as a party potentially to buy the site. So if you're friendly with banks, I'd recommend just getting involved a bit more, finding out what they're up to, catching up with them regularly, seeing where the distress is, and if you can come in, take over the transaction, whether it's just as buying it or as a developer to take over the development. It's a very interesting way to do it. Another way is your professional network. Do not underestimate the power of networking and connections. These can be friends, other developers that are in the game that know of deals. These can be people that just know you're a developer and that you have a requirement to buy sites, and they'll get in touch. These could be the architects that are working on your scheme. Let them know that you're acquisitive and you're constantly buying. They'll get in touch. The quantity surveyor, the M&E consultant. I've been and I get contacted by all of these parties that I've worked with before, even ones that I've never worked with, and they bring me deals, planning consultants, because they want the work as well. So once I get the deal struck, obviously they're going to expect me to use them for those deals, which I do. Of course I do. You got to reward them for bringing you the deal. It's a very good way to be able to get deals. So you have to be in the market. You have to be very active, talking to people, meeting to people regularly, doing this sort of thing, putting out content really helps. It keeps you at the top of people's mind. So make sure your LinkedIn's very active. LinkedIn is actually very good for that. Obviously Instagram and TikTok's fine. I wouldn't neglect that, but LinkedIn is the best platform by a country mile for professionals to keep up to date. I've made some great connections and friends and done deals from LinkedIn. Same thing you can do. So I'd recommend really making use of your professional network, connecting with them, getting on LinkedIn, posting regularly, letting people know about the updates and what you're up to and what you're looking for, and then go from there. The final method that I'm going to disclose as part of this series is online property software. Yes, I mentioned them before. You got the likes of Nimbus Maps, Churchland, Landtech, and there's others. I've got no real preference for any of them. These softwares can be quite good because when you're using mapping software, you can look through the maps and see what sites, whether it's on Street View or Google Earth View, and work out what sites look dilapidated and look like they need work done. So you can go there, find it, click it, as in click on the mapping software of the site that you're interested in, and it will show you who the owner is. If it's owned by a company, it's free information, it's public, so you can go quickly to the company, find the director's details, and search them online using free online tool methods. Or if it's owned by a person individually, you have to pay land registry fee. It used to be £3, I think it's £15 now. It's by a factor of 5, it's increased. You can pay that fee, one-off fee, and then you can get your details on who owns the property. That information isn't always up to date. Sometimes the address is a bit outdated or the name's outdated, as in if it's been sold, it's not up to date on Companies House. And that's one of the challenges with it. So yes, it's a good method. You can find it yourself using mapping software. The downfall of doing that is Google Maps, Google Street View is not up to date as of today. So you looking at a site on the maps 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months old map, that site could already be built, hoarding over, someone's transacted, bought it. So the downside is you could be spending a lot of time and resources on a method where you're not sure what condition the site is in. The best way I like to use a mapping software is to combine it with me walking for sites. So once I found a patch and I walk around looking for sites in a designated area, or I happen to stumble across one as I'm driving somewhere, I'll then search that address and then see what's around it using that same mapping software and work out what the size of the plot that I'm interested in and see what's around and who owns the neighboring sites. That's the way that I find the best method. Once you have a patch, you want to physically go there and understand it. But again, you can strike deals off market, online, not having to go to the site, but I think there's a bit more work involved. So they're the 8 methods that I've gone through to show you how to strike deals. And well, let me go back. How to find deals. In another video, I'm going to go into how to strike deals with these sellers and a way to strike different deals. But there you go. Let me know in the comments or send me a message if you've got any questions. If you want to do a free mini development course, go to the link in my store and you can get more information there. If you're interested in attending a one-day workshop to get even more information, you're welcome. But there you are. That's my video. I'll see you on the next one.